Welcome to Edge of Elimination. It is Renee. This Ashlee Jenae situation hits way too close to home. So if you don't know about this story, there was an influencer named Ashlee Jenae, and she was recently found passed on in Tanzania, Africa. What happened was she was dating a guy who was incredibly wealthy. He was in tech, crypto, hedge fund type of stuff. And he took her out on this trip. That was her boyfriend. And when she arrived, apparently they had a great time. They were taking all of these photos. And before you know it, he proposes. Everything is magical. Everything is great. And then she is found passed on through hanging. What happens next is in question. So currently her fiance is being held in Tanzania and they're still trying to work out details. The family came forward and said he did not tell her about their daughter passing away, and they talked to him, but not about that, and that they found out through the hotel staff. It seems a little bit suspicious, and a lot of people are wondering what really went on and what really happened. According to the hotel staff, there was an altercation the day of or the night before she was found. Why this situation really stands out to me is a few years back, I actually was dating a man who had tens of millions of dollars, who was in the same industry, hedge fund, investment in different technologies, etc. Looked very similar to the guy that she was with, actually. And he wanted to spoil me and give me this soft life type of a thing. He would be the equivalent to everything they would describe about a high-valued man. In fact, I've had quite a bit of experience with meeting high-valued men and have an interesting take on that. For example, I was, tired, didn't want to hang out with him, and I made up an excuse, which was true. I was like, I'm going to clean and organize today. And he's like, oh, I'll send over my maid. And he had a world-class maid that only cleaned for the celebrities. And I'm like, okay. I had cramps one day, which was true. Another day I didn't want to hang out. And he's like, I'm going to send over my massage therapist. It's a massage therapist to the stars. It's like the top A-list massage therapist who had worked on, I don't want to say the names of his clientele, but let's say beyond A-list. And I looked up the guy, and he was a very, very well-known, famous massage therapist guy, specifically for, I guess you could call it the elites. I'm like, no, it's okay. We don't need to do that. And another night, he made reservations to the nicest restaurant in all of Los Angeles. And he's like, I'll have you picked up in a limo or something like that. He did a lot of things like that. I did go on a date or two with him. And, he talked about getting married and starting a family with me and was really trying to push it forward. I have nothing negative to say about that person in particular. Based on that information and more, he basically checked off the box of what a lot of women are told to go for. So here it is, you meet this millionaire, he's willing to offer you the world, give you everything, he'll take care of all the finances, he told me about that, and all I have to do is, be dressed up and go travel with him and stuff like that. Sounds fun, but when I asked him about his history and his past relationships, there were a few red flags that stood out, such as him getting into a lot of fights and arguments with his exes, which showed me he probably had anger issues. Also, him talking about his ex, who he left right after he became extremely wealthy. And I noticed he was blaming everything on her, but it was very vague as to why exactly he left her. And it became very clear to me that once he got to a certain level of wealth and prestige, he felt like he deserved better. So the lady that had been with him for 8 years or something like that, who was there for him in his ride or die, once he finally achieved a certain amount of material success, he tossed her. And now he's looking for women that would have before maybe been out of his league. I didn't like that part at all because it showed me how he treated women and it showed me how he saw women. Now back to the Ashlee Jenae situation, when they were interviewing people who claimed to have known the man in question, they claimed that he did have anger issues and that he would fight a lot with his exes, etc. I don't know all of the details about that because a lot of this is alleged at this point, but what I do know is this. There are certain teachings, you have Shara 7, you have other people who are teaching to go for a high-valued man with money and different ways that you can get into a position to do that. Although I don't completely disagree with everything they're saying, there are things that, of course, are being left out, such as when you date a high-valued man who is incredibly wealthy and powerful, it is his money and not yours. Unless you are coming in with your own money. Say, for instance, Steve Harvey and his wife. When he met her, she had a very successful practice. She was already, I believe, a multimillionaire and very financially independent. He had no problem getting her Birkin bags and all this crazy stuff. But the reality is she really didn't need him for that. It levels the playing field to a certain extent. There's another woman who's dating an owner of a football team. I believe he's a billionaire and is spoiling her and stuff like that. But she was a surgeon and she was also a multimillionaire. Not saying you have to be rich, but if you are not coming in with your own, and it could be something small, it could be a nest egg, such as having your own apartment, having a stable job that you really like, etc. If you are not coming in with your own, it is his money, he's in control, and he has the power. And when you're dealing with someone that has anger issues or sees women to a certain extent as objects, this can be a very slippery slope. If you are dating a man who is Caucasian and you're a woman of color, particularly American woman of African descent, Black woman, Black American woman, and you're in America and you're dating a man that is a Caucasian privileged male, especially if you are brown skinned, you're not someone that can, let's say, pass for racially ambiguous, such as a Meghan Markle or something like that, you are in even more of a position where it's his way or the highway, meaning if he says that you're in the wrong, people will likely side with him and believe his opinion. This also applies to people of any complexion. However, I have noticed that when you are dating a man who is Caucasian, wealthy, older, comes from a certain type of generation, at the end of the day, he knows he is a Caucasian male in America. Even though he may not act like it, even though he may seem really cool and seem really chill and down to earth and, oh, he would never do this, he would never do that. When he gets angry or when you challenge him or when you unmask him or you're not fitting into the role that he wants for you, oftentimes those true colors will come out. And when those true colors come out, it is scary. It's not uncommon that you will find you are dating someone like this and it turns out they actually hold negative beliefs about women of color. Sometimes it's great when they feel like they're spoiling you, you're beautiful, everything is wonderful, but that's only as long as you are complying. For myself, I know how to do the Barbie doll thing. I know how to dress up and, make the guy feel flattered and all of these different things, which takes a lot of emotional energy. But when you are with certain types of guys who are looking for a woman because of her looks and they feel like she checks off the boxes, they typically are looking for a woman who's going to be like a Barbie doll, dressed up all the time, flattering them all the time, doing a lot of emotional labor, not challenging them on anything. And if you step outside of their narrow frame of what they feel like you should be, that's when oftentimes they will start to show their true colors. That's when the mask may begin to slip. And if you, instead of just saying, okay, and just playing it off, actually challenge them in a situation like this, that's when things can turn from bad to worse. I have seen it firsthand. I've experienced it firsthand. A lot of these men in those positions of power do have control issues, do feel like they are in a position where they love you when you're complying, and when you're not following suit, when you're not playing the role, things can get bad really quick. I do not recommend dating a man for his money. And I do believe in part of the reason why that guy that I was referring to in my example was so interested was because I didn't care about his money. I wasn't impressed by his money. I was more so going based on how I felt when I'm around the person, if I enjoyed their company, if I like them, as opposed to what he has to offer financially. And I know some women may totally disagree with this and may have said, just go for the money, go for the pocketbooks. But who knows? Maybe I'd be in a position similar to Ashlee Jenae. If you want to go for a high valued man, fine. But one really important thing to keep in mind is a lot of times these guys have a full roster of women who want to be with them for the exact same reason. They have a roster of women that have great physiques, that have had cosmetic procedures in certain cases, that know how to doll themselves up, know how to be very charming, and who all want the bag. And as a result, they feel like they have their pick of the litter. They can be very advanced when it comes to manipulation and to controlling a woman because they know they control the pocketbooks. And if that's what it takes to access that woman, they can control her. Instead, pick someone that you resonate with, that you really get along with, that you love, that you like to be around, someone who you feel a deep connection with. I'm not saying don't be practical with dating and relationships, but sometimes all that glitters isn't gold. If you like this video, please hit the like button, make sure to subscribe. And until next time, I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.